In this unit, we will be discussing the quadratic formula. Factoring, including the zero product property, the square root method, and completing the square have been used to solve quadratic equations. There is one more method for solving quadratic equations, known as the quadratic formula. Quadratic equations are still equations, so the attempt to solve them using inverse operations like other equations will not be attempted. The goal is to derive an equation that can be used to solve any quadratic. So first of all, we are given the general equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. The condition is that a cannot equal 0. So our next step will be to subtract c from both sides. And when we do that, we obtain the equation ax squared plus bx is equal to negative c. Now our desire is to get x squared with a coefficient of 1. To do that, I divide by a. So dividing everything by a gives us x squared plus b over a times x is equal to negative c over a. Let's continue on. Our next step now will be to complete the square. So I take this middle term, b over a, I divide it by 2 and square it using the methods we learned from the completing the square unit. So here I add a new term, b over 2a squared, and whatever I do to the left side, I also have to do to the right side. So you'll see I have b over 2a squared on the right side. Now, the next step is as follows. This says, then factor the left side and simplify the right side. So on the left side, I started out with ax squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a squared. And that is a binomial square. So you'll see on the left side right here, I have x plus b over 2a quantity squared. On the right side, I add the two fractions together with a common denominator, and that gives me a new fraction, b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Now we can go ahead and take the square root of both sides. Taking the square root of both sides gives us x plus b over 2a on the left side. On the right side, we have plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Now I can take the square root of 4a squared. Okay, the square root of 4a squared is 2a. So we have now simplified this to be x plus b over 2a is equal to plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Our last step will be to subtract and isolate the x. So we have x squared is equal to, now subtract minus b over 2a from both sides, gives me minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And since they have a common denominator, I'm trying to get my mouse to show up here. There we go. There we go. It's not moving. There we go. So they both have a common denominator of 2a. So I can combine these to get minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A quadratic equation can be solved this way, but it is difficult and tedious. The reason we only use the variables is to show that no matter what the coefficients are, the results are going to be the same. The result we have right here is known as the quadratic formula. So what you're looking at in this step where the pen is the quadratic formula. Now here's what's nice about the quadratic formula. Any quadratic equation in standard form can be solved by this quadratic formula. So if we start with ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, with the condition that a is not equal to 0, then the solutions can be found by substituting the coefficients a, b, and c into this new formula known as the quadratic formula. The steps in the previous derivation don't have to be used for the solution. We can just use this quadratic formula. Also, what's nice about this is that all the other methods we learned were basically various shortcuts that show up when we have special cases. This formula can be used for any quadratic. Keep in mind also that quadratics typically have two solutions. The quadratic formula represents two possible solutions due to this plus or minus notation right here. So here we have x with the subscripts 1 and 2, meaning we have two possible solutions, and minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a gives us two solutions. One solution is on the top here. The first solution is minus b over 2a plus this square root fraction right here. The second solution would be minus b over 2a minus this square root fraction right here. So notice that one has a plus between the two and the other has a minus between the two. The quadratic formula example number 1. We want to solve this equation using the quadratic formula. And what we have is we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now remember, the standard form would be ax squared plus bx, a y root equals there, plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So we're going to relate these coefficients to the variables a, b, and c. So that would be our first step. We want to identify the values of a, b, and c. So based on this above equation, a is going to equal 2, b will equal 3, and c will equal negative 5. Now the general quadratic equation is right here. It's x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So I make my substitutions. B is equal to 3. So everywhere I see a b, I replace that with a 3. Everywhere I see a, I replace that with 2. And everywhere I see the letter c, variable c, I replace that with a negative 5. Doing our arithmetic, we get minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 over 4. And we have x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 7 over 4. Now, or finally, we can split the solution into two equations and solve. So here I'm going to have minus 3 plus 7 over 4, and my second solution will be negative 3 minus 7 over 4. And when I do the arithmetic, we see we have the first solution can be 1, and the second solution can be negative 5 over 2. So our two solutions for this quadratic up here will be negative 5 halves and 1. And you can go ahead and check this by replacing these two numbers into this quadratic here, and you'll see that both of those will give you 0 for a solution when these numbers are replaced into x.